Professor Succow, Dr. Grießhammer, Mr. Mattlar, Mr. Unselt, delegates, I'm very happy to welcome you here to Bonn. I'm particularly pleased to welcome you to tonight's public event, which brings together laureates of the Right Livelihood Award and the German Environmental Award. The series of events taking place during this week is one of many outcomes out of our intense cooperation with the Right Livelihood Network, which we initiated in 2009. And back then, the city of Bonn embarked on close cooperation with the Stockholm-based Right Livelihood Award Foundation. And this led to the staging of the 30th anniversary conference of the Right Livelihood Award here in Bonn in September 2010, which was attended by almost 80 laureates. And many of you in this room will remember this very intense week. And many Bonn-based organizations and civil society associations hosted public events with the laureates in the course of this conference, and since then, intense links between organizations in Bonn and the Right Livelihood Network, or Right Livelihood family, as I may say, have evolved. One fine example is the Center of Development Research of the University of Bonn, which now hosts the German campus of the Right Livelihood College. And since 2011, the LC campus in Bonn is organized biannual workshops and research seminars to promote research on the RLE laureates' work and foster exchange between laureates, researchers, and students. 2009 was also the starting point for the Youth Future Project. Its first actual project was the organization of a youth conference parallel to the anniversary conference in 2010, bringing together laureates and the people from all over the world. And it is a pleasure for me to see you here in Bonn again, as you have chosen Bonn as a venue for your second large conference. When you approached the city of Bonn asking whether we would like to support the conference organization, we were more than ready to do everything we possibly could. Having seen Youth Future Project in its infancy, I'm impressed to see how the project has grown in just a short period of time. A network fully managed by young volunteers, besides their studies of work. And bringing young people together with Right Livelihood Award laureates, these pioneers working for a sustainable future, to learn from their work surely is a source of inspiration and reminds me of what German writer Erich Kästner once said: if you believe in the future, you believe in youth. And if you believe in youth, you also believe in the value of shining examples. The beneficial exchange between esteemed personalities and the young generation can initiate promising new projects and spark new initiatives of this community of young activists for sustainability and the right livelihood. And I know that it has already done so. Now the Right Livelihood College and the Youth Future Project have joined hands to organize the international conference we currently taking place in Venusberg in Bonn. And the conference brings together laureates and the German Environmental Award, activists, scientists, young researchers, students, and young people from all over the world. Together they will work on innovative approaches to solve today's most urgent challenges within the 4 dimensions of sustainability: economics, ecology, social change,
and cultural. As mayor of the city of Bonn, I highly appreciate and gladly support this conference. Sustainability and its local as well as its global challenges is a topic that is very actively discussed here in Bonn with the active involvement of our organizations working from here and with the involvement of our citizens. With a workforce of almost around about 1,000, the United Nations are working towards sustainable development worldwide from Bonn, and they are at the center of a cluster of organizations active in the fields of environment, development, and peace. Dialogue-oriented and open to interdisciplinary cooperation, this sustainability cluster includes German federal ministries, development agencies, science and research institutes, global business players, as well as the media and some 150 NGOs. So thus Bonn, I think, is a good place for exchanging experiences and breaking new ground. I strongly believe that we require new innovative solutions and maybe even more so people who have the courage to initiate new projects. In this regard, I hope that the conference and the 4 public events we have jointly organized may ignite many sparks to foster innovative research and practical initiatives for the next generation of sustainability, as the conference title calls for. Our writer Kurt Götz said, youth is not a certain period in life, it is a set of mind. It is willpower. It is the victory of courage over fear and convenience. And in this sense, I hope that not only the young generation by age, but that all of us may be inspired by the spirit of youth tonight. Before I end, I would like to mention the various partners who made this conference possible. There are the German Federal Foundation for Environment, the Foundation for International Dialogue of the Savings Bank in Bonn, the German Academic Exchange Service, the Software Foundation, the Robert Bosch Foundation, and the European Union Youth in Action Program. Talking of support, our gratitude also goes to the Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development, which has supported specifically these public events. And of course, special thank goes to the teams of the Youth Future Project and the Right Livelihood College for putting so much work into this conference. Now it only remains to wish us all a very inspiring evening, and if you're leaving Bonn, and unfortunately you will do that, take it with you, our city logo, which we took from our greatest son, Ludwig van Beethoven. It's only one word. Please take it home. Freude, joy, joie, Bonn. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Jürgen Nimsch, Lord Mayor of Bonn. So now we step deeply more into the matter, what we're going to do today. And there's more people arriving. Welcome, come in. Can you show where there's still seats available? I see 2 seats here and there. So go there where the hands are up, so we don't have such a long, disturbing moment here before we start. And everybody else who's waiting right now, you can start looking below your seat. And maybe you found something there. It should actually be 3 cards. Can you show me the 3 cards you found on your seats? Very good, very good. Okay, for the beginning, you need the red card and the green card. Okay, so, oh, there's more people coming. It's a whole busload. So we have a short moment of just waiting. Relax. So if you're there and you're looking for a seat, just come to the front. There's still seats here. Come to the front. We have still seats here. Okay, hurry. We're waiting for you. Okay. So, okay, I think now, may we close the door now? Who's in is in, who's out is out. This is our evening. So, these cards I want to use to include you in the discussion. Because otherwise it's just like people talking on the front, and as you said, we want to be inspired also by the youth. That means like by the sparkling questions you're all going to put in. So, to see first if it's working, raise your green card if you're between 20 and 40 years old. All right, so we get an image about what youth is here. Is there people who are younger than 20? There is. So there is real youth here, actually. And then when see, are people still interested when they're older? Is there people here who are older than 40? Older than 40? Very, very little. So it is a young evening. Very good. So then, like the topic today is, nature in the Anthropocene, from protection to production. So I thought we start a bit like with another way how I can introduce you or use you to communicate. It's about nature today. So I want you to look to your side now and choose one partner with whom you're going to have a short discussion. Could also be behind you. Choose. Have you found? Everybody has found somebody? Good. Very nice. I like this murmuring. Now, I ask you, shh, not yet, not yet. I ask you now to find out what was your first moment that you remember when you got touched by nature. Okay, and tell the other person what was that moment where you got touched by nature. Okay, decide on who starts. I think you have only like 1 minute each, okay? So, there you go. So.
Tick, 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 tick. So now it will be time to change slowly. So I hope you changed already. The last 15 seconds. All right. Close your sentence. Thank you very much. So now I'm curious, and I'm going to Mr. Anwar Fazal. What was your experience, your first one?
I was born next to a river which was making wonderful sounds, and that became my lullaby. And it was such a beautiful, beautiful sound. That was my symphony for my life. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. So, and now I'm going to the back and see who we got there. So, I'll ask you, Miss Jacqueline Cabahinda, is that right?
Yeah.
What was your moment?
My moment, actually,
I think it's on.
But, I shared about this visit to the chimpanzee sanctuary, and I was impressed by the interaction with the chimpanzees and the conservation around the chimpanzee sanctuary that is in Uganda.
Wow. Well, this sounds very exotic to me. So I need somebody from Germany. Who's from Germany? You? No. Yeah? So what is your experience?
I was 4 years old and I was on a walk with my grandfather and I sat on his shoulders and then he explained me everything around us and it was nice.
Well, thank you very much. I think you have been sharing many more intimate moments about how we connect to nature. And if people are here, mainly it's the reason that there was something in life that has touched them to become engaged for nature, or if you're engaged with people, something where you felt like you want to do something good. And I think the people who are going to be here on stage today are people who have dedicated all their life because they had similar experiences earlier on. So this was just a small exercise to get you in here and also to connect with each other because you're working together here and we want to have an evening where we really talk to each other. And I hope we can make it, even though there is some limitations. And the limitations I'm going to put to you now, it's hard because you found also the white card. You have the white cards, you saw them, and hopefully you have pens. May I now ask the ambassadors of the audience on stage, I can put that away now.
Very good. So we have Alexander Capistran, there you are, and we have Carola Semarey, there you are. Just present yourself for a short moment. So they're supporting us as the ambassadors of the audience. So why that? It's the point, while we're talking, you have the white papers, and I ask you to write on each paper only one question. You have two sides of the paper, so you can think of two good questions if you feel like something you really want to ask the three people on stage. At a certain moment, we will collect them. So I will ask everybody to hand in his paper to the middle, and they're going to walk along the main alley and collect the questions, and they have some time to sort them out. And in the end, we're going to put the questions up which were asked the most, or which are the most interesting. So that is there, so we can have like the most questions here, and also we limit like very long monologues from the side, so it stays interesting for everybody. And we have thought today, we want to have quite a large time for your questions. So be creative, put in questions. We want to hear them. Thank you very much. So maybe a general word, attention, a general word about the speakers today. When I came and saw the program, I thought like, this is not going to be a discussion really, because they're all people who are really engaged in the environment work, in each field what they do, and they're not really confrontational. So what I want to like put the pressure out of all of us that it has to be like this confrontational fight on stage where you think like, wow, he's better, no, I like him. No, it's not going to be. Like, let us try just to be inspired by what they have done and see if they have maybe new or inspiring answers to questions you have in mind. So that's what I think is a general idea for the evening, might be quite good. All right, so I think I'll just step into the matter now and start presenting you the host, kind of the guests on the podium. The idea is that first, everybody has time to explain a bit what he's doing. It's like we get the general like interest of who is this person done, and after that we have some questions we're going to discuss following our topic. Okay, so the first guest I want to introduce to you is somebody, he's a village activist. So he's been working with rural villages in a Scandinavian northern country. And he's the secretary and the PR person of one very concrete village society. And he's been engaged a long time in doing this. And himself is an organic farmer. So he's a very, very concrete person here to talk about the topic nature, protection, or production. What is the thing? Give a big hand to Mr. Tapio Mattlar from Finland. So, you can come up on stage and you can choose actually, and you have a seat, or you can go to
I guess this is
if
mine.
you talk, yeah, we just sit down, huh? It's comfortable, so now I'm not alone on stage anymore. Feels much better. Tapio, you just arrived some minutes before.
Yes.
And so thank you very much for being here, ready to talk. I know it's not so easy when you're just popping in and everybody's like, hey, welcome Tapio, what are you about to say? So yeah, I'm. If you have the feeling like, oh, there's a gap, I'm jumping in. So
Yeah.
basically, the question I want to ask you is like, what have you been doing? Like, to give us a general idea, and what's maybe the message, the first one that you want to put out to these people here?
Well, my message is that biodiversity is the most important thing. And what I am doing, I'm trying to increase the biodiversity at my farm. And I have been quite successful.
You've been successful. Okay, so I think it's like when you talk successful, it's something very concrete.
Yeah, it's very concrete because I started this work about 20 years ago. And we had less than 200 species of natural plants at our farm. And now we have more than 300.
Wow.
308 to be exact.
So when you started this morning, did you come directly from your farm here?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. But I think like when I read about you, I found fascinating that you're also connecting like different villages and you're working together to get a sustainable development going in like kind of a region. Is that true?
Yeah, in the Finnish Village Action Movement, there is a lot of cooperation between villages. Yeah, that's true. But I did this work mainly in 80s and 90s. But the last 20 years, my main work has been to increase biodiversity.
On your farm?
Yeah, and
Great.
also I go and talk to other people that they should start the same work as we have to the nature management work.
So when I understand, it's like your work is really concrete on the ground, trying to convince people.
Yeah.
Of course, the question is, did you have any success?
Yeah. As I said, I have made it possible for more than 100 new species of plants to grow at the farm.
Yeah.
I do the work with my sheep, and yeah, they are my most important workers are my sheep. But of course, I have to do a lot of myself too, because they cannot cut trees down and things like this.
So I want to just get an idea,
Build
like
fences.
I want to see in the audience, like who of you had on first-hand experience with actually producing food? Cards up. Wow, that is a rather large part. So we see Tapio is not alone in producing food. Anybody who feels he's also increased biodiversity while he was doing it? The count is less. So, like, if we could more on a general like level, what is key to increasing biodiversity and producing food?
Well, the key is that you have to plan what kind of methods you are using by trying to manage the nature, become more to increase more biodiversity. So
can you give us like three
I'm not
examples?
biologist, but my son is, and we plan together all the methods. Every 5 years we may make a new plan. What shall we do next 5 years? And it's scientific plan.
Wow. So do you think like that the model you're having is like feasible to be transplanted in other places around the world?
I'm not sure about the world, but in other places, in Finland at least, maybe in some other countries too, but the nature is so different in different parts of the world, so I don't know if it's possible to copy it.
But would you like, we're saying like in this discussion, the topic is is there like a conflict between protection and production? And would you say like what you're doing is harmony between protection and production?
Well, I don't know if harmony is the right word. The history in Finland is that we had meadows more than fields 100 years ago, And now we have only 1% left of those meadows because the effective farming. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make all the old meadows recover.
Yeah. Okay.
But maybe it's not the same kind of history in other countries. I don't know.
Well, I think for Germany it's pretty much the same. There's like.
And we
meadows
have the
are
biggest
declining.
problem in Finland is that the trees are growing too fast, and there are too many trees growing in the old meadows, and I have to take them away and put sheep there, and that's why the plants come back.
Okay. So actually, by farming, you increase biodiversity.
Yeah.
Okay. So there is some kind of like.
And what we produce is sheep meat, but it's not the main thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. It's not the main thing.
Yeah. Main
So-
thing is biodiversity.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a revolutionary approach for agriculture. Not everybody sees that. So, thank you very much. So we get an idea. You're really hands-on in the business. Yeah. Oh, good thing you did it. The cards, you can also use them if you think that's really, really a good thing to say. So you can put up the green card, and if you think like, no, I strongly oppose what you just said, you put up the red card. So when you feel like you want to get active, you can use them. So, now, thank you very much. We want to fill up our podium here. So the next person I want to introduce to you comes from a totally different area of life. And he's been actually working in research, but like focused more on the consumer side of life. So how can the products that we all use become more efficient, more sustainable? And maybe you've heard of it. It's a big institution in Germany, the Eco Institute. And he is one of the CEOs of the Eco Institute still today, and he's developed like an own concept how you can actually evaluate the sustainability of a product. And in Germany, very famous, it's the Eco Top 10 check, where like different kinds of household appliances, other tools we use are checked. And so many people, many consumers make their choice in Germany by these tests. Give a warm hand of welcome to Professor Grießhammer. Welcome. So, there you are. We already had the pleasure to talk a longer time during a dinner beforehand, so I get a bit of an idea. But I think the people who are sitting here would really like to know, how did you start to do your work? And maybe the question like also, what do you think was the impact of the work? When you think in the beginning how you started, I found it very interesting when you were talking about like the different atmosphere where you started from. And when you look back now, what have you achieved? Would have you thought it possible in the beginning when you started working?
Yeah, I'm also working for biodiversity, for the biodiversity of products. So I'm arguing against bad products, bad chemicals, especially in the beginning, and I like to promote good products. So in the beginning we worked with boycotts, and now we go ahead with boycotts. And when Eco Institute was founded, 1977, the situation, the environmental situation in Germany was very bad, like it is today still in many other countries. And there were a lot of conflicts about products, about production processes, and so on. And the environmental movement asked for consultants, for scientists who could support the environmental movement. And that was a beginning and the foundation of the Eco Institute.
So that started, what year was it that you started?
Oh, that was the year 77 when Eco Institute was created, but I started 1979, so it's a long time. I'm sort of a dinosaur. So,
so what was, do you remember, like, what was the first kind of research that really hit big in the media, had an effect on the German, like, audience?
Well, in the beginning, it was the so-called Energiewende. The Eco Institute published in the year 81 a book, and the concept of Energiewende, saving energy using renewable energy. And we are quite happy that it's nowadays an official concept, even of German government and the German society and industry.
What were like the obstructions that you met when you published it? What were like comments people would give?
Oh, it was not very helpful. So we had very strange articles in the media, and people say it's illusionary, you are utopists, you are even enemies of the society, because we need energy. Yes, you need energy, but you can have a much higher energy efficiency. And nearly no one believed it, and there were no experiences in this field. And our second vision was that we can have enough energy, but without fossil energy and nuclear power. And this was the second field where we got a lot of arguments.
Yeah. It's interesting, you're like kind of touching the point, like first we have to be economically stable and then we can do the environment. And there was like in 2012 was a very interesting research about the German like conscience for the environment. And I just want to check with you as a broader audience in Germany, like the question is, do you believe the environmental question is more urgent than the economical crisis? Green card if you believe so, red card if you think, no, first there has to be this economic development. So I see an intermediate. Yeah, leave them up for a moment. Okay. So I would say from my view here, it's about 90% think the ecological question is more important. Okay. So at least here in the room, your study would have found a welcome audience. But in Germany, actually, like if you look all over the people, still the economical problem is seen as more important as the ecological problem. And so still a majority of people would say, like, first there has to be jobs and work and everything, and then we can deal with the environmental question.
Okay, I have expected such a sign, so that was the reason that I have come to this room. But no, to be honest, I believe that the financial crisis and environmental crisis is strongly connected.
Can someone, I have the feeling it's still very low, the sound. Is that true? Can you understand him? It's very low. Can we maybe first, maybe it's better now, say a word?
It's strongly connected.
No, because I think it might make sense if we check that first, otherwise it's impossible to follow. So you can also, yeah, that's a good idea. We take a Keule, like we say in Germany. No. No. Okay, technical break now. Pictures floating. All right, we're almost there. So.
Okay, thank you very much. I believe that the financial crisis and environmental crisis is strongly connected.
Yeah.
And we are standing at a crossroad in front of the next industrial revolution. And if you act as a society in direction of resource efficiency and energy efficiency and nature protection, you will be more successful even in the industrial development.
Yeah, okay. We take that for first. I think we want to fill up the podium even further. So now it is my pleasure to introduce you the third guest on the podium. So what can I say about this particular person? First, I have to say, for me as a German person engaged in nature protection, he's a very famous person. because he's the one, like, we had the reunification, maybe you heard about it, the wall fell down, and at that time there was all these frontier areas, many areas that were like grounds that were protected also in the GDR, but also training grounds of the army. And some people, and among him our guest on the podium, they managed and they took the chance to actually secure this land to become protected areas. And most of it is national parks now, or it's biosphere reservations, where there's like a different system of contact between people and nature. And one of them, and maybe the most prominent of them, is here with us today. He was a former environment minister, like, how is it, Stellvertreter? Oh God, I don't know, Stellvertreter. Vice Minister of Environment of Eastern Germany. Say a big hand to Professor Dr. Succow. So, it's my honor to have you here on stage. So, and he's also a winner of the Right Livelihood Award in 1997. And to make it easier for you, we have also Niels here, and he's going to translate into English. So, excuse you all for the short delays, but to make it like possible for Professor Succow to speak with all his eloquency, we have decided for German as his language and a translation. So we need some moments of breaks. So, thank you for being here. That's a good idea. Have a glass of water. Erstmal ankommen. So now I will put my questions in English and in German, and I hope I'll always think of it. So, ich habe dich ja jetzt, dich oder sie schon vorgestellt, was sie gemacht haben. Es wäre natürlich interessant, ein bisschen zu sehen, was ist eigentlich der motivierende Faktor dahinter gewesen, diese, sage ich mal, Gebiete mit dem Aufwand auch an Energie unter Schutz zu stellen. War das eine spontane Idee aus dem Moment oder welche Philosophie steckt dahinter? So in English, like I'm asking for the engagement he had in time, at the time backwards also, doing it, like the enormous effort in convincing so many people that this needs to be done at that crucial moment in history. Like, what was like the background of philosophy of thinking that made them act in this way?
Ja, groß geworden auf einem Bauernhof in Brandenburg und dabei als Kind die Aufgabe, Schafe zu hüten, mit Hund und Herde in großer Natur allein zu sein, nicht Fußball zu spielen, nicht am Computer zu sitzen. Und da entfaltete sich eine tiefe Naturliebe, ein Wissen wollen, wie die Natur funktioniert. Und diese tiefe Liebe führte dann Natur erhalten, Natur sichern, Verantwortung für die Natur und anfangs im Leben Schutz der Natur um der Natur willen. Und jetzt mit dem Älterwerden begreife ich, es geht nicht um die Natur. Das Projekt Natur geht weiter, es geht um uns, um die Menschheit, um ihre Zukunft, wenn wir nicht begreifen, in einem ökologischen Haus zu wohnen. Kriegt er das? Ja. Ja.
So, Niels, try your best.
Ach so, ja.
So Professor Succow grew up on a farm in Brandenburg and herded sheep as a young boy in nature alone and with nature, not sitting in front of a computer, and that led him to a deep love of nature and later to a deep feeling of responsibility and taking care of nature. At first he wanted to protect nature as nature, but now that he is older, he feels that it's not only about nature, but it's about us and our relationship with nature.
So this is kind of a major shift, but I want to check that with you. Who thinks nature should be protected for its own sake, like for its intrinsic value, and who doesn't think? Who thinks nature is protected for man? That's a red card, okay? So I'll put it up again. Green card, nature just for nature. Red card, no, nature is actually there for man, or man is first. Okay, it's a very mixed picture. Sehr gemischtes Bild. Huh? Interesting, thank you very much. So, it's like it's really, I think, a major paradigm shift. Das ist wirklich eine ganz, ganz große Veränderung, die da stattgefunden hat. Was war der ausschlaggebende Faktor? What was like the event that made you change your perception? Was hat Ihre Wahrnehmung verändert in dem Punkt?
In der Zeit der Kindheit war die Welt für mich noch heil. Die Landschaft meiner Kindheit war voller Leben. Arbeitende Menschen, viele hatten im ländlichen Raum Arbeit, voller Tiere. Auf den Feldern meines Vaters lebten Großtrappen, heute praktisch ausgestorben, also ganz große, die schwersten Vögel der Erde. Das war meine Welt, in der ich groß geworden bin. Und dann die brachiale Intensivierung, zunächst durch die DDR, eben den Kapitalismus zu überrunden. Wir wollten die Größten sein und dann nun eine zweite Gesellschaftsordnung, die ich erlebe, den gewöhnlichen Kapitalismus und wieder der Mensch Herrscher über die Natur, der Mensch Bezwinger der Natur, die Industrie-Agrarproduktion in einer Perfektion, wie ich sie nicht für möglich gehalten hatte, die unser Leben, unsere Landschaft vernichtet, erschöpft und die Menschen erschöpft.
Good on you, Niels.
So as a child, Professor Succow grew up in a landscape that was full of life, of working people working on farms with animals in the meadows. For example, even a species of very large birds that are now extinct. And he has seen the intensification or a change in the system of the economy during his life in the GDR, where production became industrialized and they want to be the best in the world. And now he also has experienced a second system, capitalism as it is, and it's now about humans as rulers of nature, about progress and controlling nature as such.
All right, so I think that's an interesting point, because we had this Produktion, Schutz, and how agriculture changed is something that maybe is a thing that's very important. I personally was the day before yesterday at a big manifestation against a slaughterhouse for chicken. A new one has been built, and they're actually killing their 430,000 chickens a day. That's 7 chickens a second, and yeah, it's bad. Yeah, and I was there at this immense plant, and I thought wow. And then I read they have to produce build 200 mega chicken raising production sites, growing places to cater for this demand. And there was also for me, I'm active a long time, I was really shocked by this size, and I thought where are we going? And so I think I'm opening this up a bit now, I think. And we were talking a bit during our we had food together before. It's what is the way out of this kind of twisted way of production, where there's it's far away from any idea of protection. So when you're working, I mean, food is not your main idea, but maybe you have a thought on this.
Yeah, it's a very difficult challenge, because people like to have a lot of products. In the 60s, they have taken about 30% of their income to buy food, and today they need only about 11%. And they want to have cheap food. That's one problem. And the other problem is that they are accustomed to special food, to meat they have eaten as young people, as older people, typical family.
We're just going to make the check because we have this amazing tool. So I just want to see with your cards, Green if you're a vegetarian or vegan, and red if you eat fish or meat. Please now. So I would always say it's a majority of fish and meat eaters. Yeah. So even here in this kind of enlightened community, we still have, I try to charm you, we have a majority of fish and meat eaters, which proves you're right.
And I mean, it's not a typical audience today. Normally it's nearly 95% is red. And one problem is that the complete setting, how you have eaten food in your family, how you eat in the school, at restaurants, and so has special experiences which are not altered so easily. And you may have followed the discussion in German newspaper about the Veggie Day. The Green Party proposed a Veggie Day in the canteens. That at one day a Veggie Day should be introduced, and there was really a rumor in the newspaper. And for my feeling is just controversial. I have the problem that in every canteen I have to eat meat. There is not a proposal of veggies or no attractive. And so if we want to change the situation, we cannot also look to laws and taxes and so on. We have to change the whole setting in the schools, in the canteens, in the families, but also to change taxes and prices. And but the typical situation today is that people buy a new kitchen, very expensive, and they show their friends, look at my new refrigerator, my stove,
so now
and so
I'm
on.
introducing, excuse me, a new tool. This is the yellow card, because we have a limitation of about 2 minutes for saying something on this podium. So now you have 30 seconds left.
Okay. And they take a lot of money for the new kitchen, and then they take a bad, cheap meat. That's the typical situation.
Expensive kitchen, cheap meat. Is he saying you're doing that too, the green cards? No, I think you want to say strong opposition. Huh? So better cheap kitchen, expensive food. Okay, so we got that. Would you underline that, Tapio? I mean, you're producing also meat. So
first, I have to tell that the World Wildlife Fund Finland claims that there is one way to produce meat which increases biodiversity, and it is to produce the meat in meadows and in natural areas, not on the fields.
Yeah.
So,
yes, it's like it's a very good point.
Yeah,
like
so
it's maybe
it's allowed to eat meat if you buy meadow meat.
Meadow meat.
Yeah.
I never saw that label in the supermarket.
We have just started it. We have now, this World Wildlife Fund Finland have created the rules. They did it first in Sweden, and now they did it in Finland. They have created the rules, what kind of meat you can call meadow meat.
Really?
And then you get the certification, and you can eat it as a special product.
Okay, I have one interruption. I think that's an interesting point we're getting to, but now I want all of you to ask to bring your white cards to the center person on the main alley, and our two ambassadors of the audience, you can come and collect and start selecting the good questions. All right, so it's about meadow meat, and I think there's an interesting point. Biodiversity is increasing with agriculture. So, as I know, Professor Succow, you've been working on landscape ecology at university. You've been professor for many, many years. So, Europe, thank you. Europe and in general, what is nature in Europe is also a main question, and how far can we think of nature in Europe without man? Ich schaue einmal auf Deutsch, ne? Also ist angekommen.
Ich denke generell ohne intakte Natur. Achso, ja. Ich denke generell ohne intakte Natur, das heißt funktionstüchtige Natur, kann es auch keine intakte menschliche Gesellschaft geben. Wir müssen also in kürzester Frist begreifen, dass wir eben mit Leben, mit Ökosystemen wirtschaften. Und diese industriemäßige Agrarproduktion ist eine der schwersten Verfehlungen der menschlichen Zivilisation, denn sie liquidiert die Arbeitsplätze, Maschinen und Chemie ersetzen den Menschen, der Arbeitsplatz Landschaft geht verloren und auf der anderen Seite, ach so, ja.
Industrial production, he thinks. Oh yeah. So he thinks that without a nature that is functioning, without an intact nature, without a functioning nature, there cannot be a functioning society. And we have to urgently take steps to work with ecosystems. Industrial production is a bad way of production because it liquidates the natural way of working with ecosystems. It liquidates and kills jobs and that are normally in tune with the way ecosystems work.
Und eine Lösung der Welternährungsprobleme wird es überhaupt nicht geben oder nur durch den Erhalt bäuerlicher Wirtschaftsweise, denn in den Entwicklungsländern sind mehr denn 50, zum Teil 80% im ländlichen Raum beschäftigt. Und diesen Arbeitsplatz zu erhalten, das muss der Inhalt einer Entwicklungshilfe der reichen Länder sein und deshalb ganz entscheidend, die gesamte Subventionspolitik der EU muss aufhören, kurzfristig aufhören. Sie zerstört die dritte Welt. Und sie beschäftigt einen Riesenapparat in Brüssel mit ihren Lobbyisten und hemmt hier eine vernünftige Entwicklung, in der die Produkte, die Urproduktion eben ihren Wert hat, ihren realen, ihren wirklichen Wert. Also weg mit Subventionen, der Landwirt soll Prämie erhalten, der viele Arbeitskräfte beschäftigt und unter dessen Acker sich ein gutes Grundwasser entwickelt, unter dessen Acker Humus sich bildet. Das sind die Grundprinzipien. English, Russian language, and I work now in the eastern countries, in the countries of the former Soviet Union, and my problem is I have learned only in the new society a little bit English, and that is my problem, but I think I will speak in bad English. It is shorter and we have more time for discussion, yeah?
Wow, a big hand. So, which leads us to the question: if the last paragraph you were saying we haven't translated yet. So, Niels, are you still going to translate the last bit, or are you going to repeat it yourself?
So, if there is a solution to the food problem in the world, if there is one at all, it will only be by promotion of traditional ways of farming. In developing countries, 50 to 80% of the people work in farming, and this preservation of this has to be a central aim of development aid from developed countries. Another important point is subsidies have to stop. They destroy the third world, and this means EU subsidies. They not only are bad for development in the third world, they also create a huge bureaucracy, and this is why Professor Succow really supports to scrap EU subsidies in agriculture.
I agree. Yes, I think I think you made a very good arch from what is actually needed, and also this conflict between like organic agriculture. This question often put is like this can't be the solution, it's not feeding. That when you look in detail, actually worldwide, it's the opposite. People are starving because of export. It's a very interesting point. So you have an addition to it.
I would like to focus on one challenging question that is meadows meat.
I've heard this before.
I'm not a vegetarian, but I eat not too much meat. But nevertheless, I believe 60 or 70% of the worldwide agricultural land are meadows. And they are used for animals, sheep, cattle, and so on. And so my question is, can we promote a strategy for worldwide nutrition without meat?
I think it is possible that we can, in Europe, for example, only by without meat have a future. And it is also for the whole world the same. To the other hand, the cow is very important for a good fertility of agriculture. And the cow is a center of agriculture. And we need both, in my opinion. We need we need in future agriculture with cow, with sheep, also for open landscapes, for biodiversity like Finland, and we need, to the other hand, more vegetable crop production by organic farming. That is a way for future for me. And we have in many countries a pastoral culture in Africa and Asia. In Mongolia, I work in Mongolia and in Siberia, and it is a wonderful co-evolution between animals and people, the nomadic lifestyle. And that is for me a very challenge to protect this form of traditional land use in form of biosphere reserve. And I work with my foundation, especially in Central Asia, Mongolia, in Far East, and also in Africa.
I'm just checking with the audience. Yeah. Who of you knows what the specialty of a biosphere reserve is in contrast to a national park? Green if you know, red you don't. So red would mean like you would like an explanation on that. So the question is, do you know what a biosphere reserve is and what is different to a national park? Green you know, red you don't know. So maybe very short explanation. So because it's kind of special for our topic.
The main work of my foundation is in the World Heritage Site of Nature, together with people. That is a mixed World Heritage Site and national parks. And the other way, and that is for me very important, to protect historical landscapes with people, and that is the approach of biosphere reserve by UNESCO 40 years ago. And in the moment we help in Africa, in Cuba, in Mongolia, and very new in North Korea. A group of women from North Korea for 3 weeks was in Greifswald, and the North Korean need organic agriculture, high interested, not fertilizer, not pesticides, and the idea of biosphere is very important for North Korea and also in Iran. And that is for me a hopeness that we can protect small ethnic groups with approach of biosphere reserve and traditional land use and biodiversity and organic food all together. That's a wonderful approach for the future. Biosphere reserve.
Thank you very much. I thought it's an interesting topic because it's an idea of bringing it together. But the question is, like, is this like feasible to bring like protection and production together like on the larger scale? What do you think, Tapio? When you look at Finland today, do you see a possible like window of opportunity for this?
I would like to tell about the research they made in Aalto University last year about the carbon footprint. And the result was that an average person who lives in a city has a larger carbon footprint than the average person who lives in the countryside. So that was very nice to hear for a village activist. And so my advice is that you should move to the countryside and live simple life there.
Okay.
Produce your own meat and heat up your house with your own wood and so on.
So that would, yeah, kind of back to the roots.
Yeah.
Back to the roots. But is it really possible when we think of the large populations we have nowadays in cities?
Yeah, well, I've done it, so it's possible. I was born in Helsinki, and I lived there for 25 years. And the main difference between city people and country people is that country people, they consume so much less. And that they drive a little bit more by their cars. Yeah. So they are more sinful in car driving, but all the other what they were searching for, they were better people in the countryside. They didn't go so often for a holiday to Thailand, or they didn't do shopping as much and so on. So that's why it's smaller, the carbon footprint.
Okay, so we're coming a bit to the topic of lifestyles.
Yeah.
But now, as time is proceeding, I see the ambassadors of questions. They're like, for already minutes and minutes, they're deep in your question. I think you made a lot of questions. I think I would say, like, maybe you can just like put one pile to the side and go with the questions you got now, because the time is running. We only have 20 minutes left, and I would really like to hear some questions. Thank you. So, we've been here looking onto different aspects, and we got a bit into the agriculture field, but I think there's many, many more questions or subjects people want to talk about and hear what our guests can say to this. So, who wants to start?
Maybe I start.
There you go.
So, there were lots of questions related to lifestyle and sustainable lifestyle, and in context or contrast to farming and grassroots approaches. And yeah, maybe I can just say one question. One question was, how do you convince ordinary people, in inverted commas, how do you convince ordinary people of the value of biodiversity and ecosystem services?
Okay, how can you convince ordinary people of the value of ecosystems? And what was the second one?
Biodiversity.
Biodiversity. So, what would be your answer? I want just a short answer, 2 words. Everybody, Tapio, what do you think? How to convince?
Shall I tell something about this?
All right, do it. It's an interesting point. It's like it's an aspect of the thing.
Well, for me, the importance of biodiversity is clear, but for some people it isn't. So they made another research in university in Finland. The title was Environmental Biodiversity, Human Microbiota and Allergy Are Interrelated. And the result was they showed that environmental biodiversity in the surroundings of the study subjects' homes influenced the composition of the bacterial classes on their skin. Compared with healthy individuals, atopic individuals had lower environmental biodiversity in the surroundings of their homes and significantly lower generic diversity of gamma proteobacteria on their skin. So the result raised fundamental questions about the consequences of biodiversity loss for both allergic conditions and public health in general.
So, so you need some dirt, otherwise you'll develop allergies. That's the main point.
Yeah, they had big news in the newspapers in Finland about this, and the title was that nature gets poor, you get sick.
That's easy to remember.
Yeah.
Very good. So, Professor Grießhammer, what would be like your catchwords, like your headlines, how to convince ordinary people the value of biodiversity?
I mean, that was a good example. More biodiversity of microorganisms, more healthy people. But I tried to show that there are different benefits of changing consumption patterns. For example, I do not argue eat less meat or no meat. You can look to a recommendation of the German Society of Nutrition, who says 15 kilo meat per year is enough to be healthy, and you will stay healthy. So the average consumption is 60 kilos per year. You can show that you need less money if you have a more Mediterranean way of nutrition. And I have written a book about cooking, eco-cooking, to show, to convince people that not to say you must eat this vegetarian stuff, but to convince them with good and well-tasting recipes.
All right, to tempt them. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Professor Succow, what would be your
Yeah, also for me is not the biodiversity the main aspect, but the functioning of ecosystems. For example, the forest have gutes Grundwasser, good groundwater, humus accumulation, oxygen production. The steppe ecosystem accumulate organic material to black soils, to Chernozyems. The peatlands, I am a peatland scientist, are very important for the storage of organic material, torf, peat, and later coal, and so on. And for me, the functioning of ecosystems is for the future of mankind the main aspect, the main topic. And in this ecosystems, we have different species, and that is good that we protect the species, but the functioning, it is in the middle point. And to the other hand, we know more and more, we accept the ecological functioning, the ecological benefits of all these ecosystems. And that is the base of our future, to protect the functioning of ecosystems. Yeah.
So, but the question was how to convince, was that really an answer, how to convince people, wie kann man sie überzeugen davon?
Yeah.
That was the logic behind it.
Yeah, ich denke, I think I will go with people in the landscape, and we will discuss, we will look together what is an intact ecosystem, what is an ecosystem with high biodiversity, with nature give for me happy, give for me a deep impression, and I think we must have more Berührung, more connection, more with nature. And when it is for me the base for the future, and the children must have a very intensive contact with nature. And I wish all people to have a garden, their own garden, and ecological garden.
Who would
that
like to have a garden? Green
many
card,
power.
please. Don't forget. Who has a garden? Oh, I envy you. Okay.
I would like to add an observation, even people which are not so environmentally friendly, like nature, and for example, say fly to Brasilia to watch the natural forests. But if in Germany there is a planning in the northern part of Black Forest to establish a Nationalpark, and people are arguing against such a Nationalpark, but on the same time they like to have a very strong connection with untouched nature.
Undisturbed, yeah. This day was for me a wonderful day. I was in a forest in the, wie heißt die Landschaft, in the Sauerland, the so-called Sauerland. And in this landscape...
Everybody, who knows the Sauerland?
Was heißt ein Unternehmer? Yeah.
Who doesn't is a red card. I think quite a lot of people don't know the Sauerland.
And this day, a very important a businessman go with me in the forest. He had more than 2,000 hectares, and he said, I will give 300 hectares only for nature, without Axt, without, was heißt Säge,
Axe and so on.
Yeah, and so on. And we will make this plan together, and it is a forest by, wie heißen die Fichten, a spruce forest and a little bit beech forest. And now, in future, 300 hectares he will give only for nature. And that is a great success, not by state. A private man said we need untouched nature also in Germany. And that was a great day, this day with him. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So I think I would really like to hear some more questions as time is proceeding so fast. So you've got one for us.
Okay, this one is working?
It is. Just one moment. Now.
Now? Okay. So we have another question, a very pragmatic question, which was already shortly touched by Professor Grießhammer. The question is it better to support meadow meat or be vegetarian?
To Professor Grießhammer?
To everyone.
To everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's a draconic question. Well, we can just ask the audience, is it better to eat meadow meat or be vegetarian? Hands up. Oh, sorry. Green, meadow meat, red, vegetarian. We turn it around this time, huh? Watch it. So, is it better to eat meat, green, red, vegetarian? That's really complicated in the head. Okay. It's kind of undecided. I would say it's really undecided. People have, say, putting up both cards. So, it's both good solutions, I think, is the answer. I think we've already discussed it quite a lot on the topic, and we said something about it, so I would prefer not to go in deeper. Maybe we have another question which goes somewhere else. Yeah, or maybe we can change. You got another question. First, that side. Okay.
I have another question, yes. Is a sustainable lifestyle in our capitalistic society feasible, or should every individual seek to become a farmer and pursue autonomy?
Tapio, you already started the topic by saying everybody should go to the countryside. So I will ask somebody like Professor Dr. Grießhammer, you're like the most, I would say, like realist person on stage, because you've been dealing like, oh, that was a bad one. Sorry. No, I always say like you're really dealing like with products, and you're trying to bring things to consumer society. You know? You're not creating like these protection areas aside from the society. You're not going out of the town to do it like on the agriculture way. Like you're trying to change like what everybody kind of consumes, or a large mass of the people consumes. So what would be your answer to the question?
Now, let me start with a typical German consumption. You can reduce the impacts of consumption by about 70% just by using efficiency. That's really a lot. It's 70%.
Give us an example.
For example, electricity. The typical German consumption is about 3,500 kilowatt hours per year for a two-person household. In my personal household, we need 1,200 kilowatt hours, but we have a refrigerator and dryer, computer, and all this stuff like a typical German household. It's about 70%, and we have shown it in our market overviews, EcoTop 10, that you can make such a consumption and buy such products, and you will also save money. So that's a typical example, and you have much more example if you go to cars, to food, and so on. But nevertheless, if all German people would behave in such a manner, the big question is, can the whole world consume in such a comparable manner? And we believe, no. You must reduce the rate of consumption. Efficiency will not bring the result by its own.
Okay, so we have to reduce the rate of consumption. That's also an interesting point. It's like, how do we actually reduce the rate of consumption? Because many people say, like, efficiency gain, what will happen with the money saved? You go on vacation to Brazil. Yeah, what we do with the money? I'm not going to burn it. You know, I'm actually doing something else.
That was a typical question. So I really convinced a woman to save so much electricity, and afterwards she said, "Now I save 400 euros per year. What should I do with this 400? May I fly to Mallorca or whatever?" And I was. I must say I was a little bit surprised. And at the end I said, give it to Terre des Hommes.
Give it to Terre des Hommes. Wow. But that is, in a way, I would say, is quite demanding for like the moral groundedness of that person to do that.
Yeah, but nevertheless, if you look to the world economy, to the growing economy of China, of India, and the demand of resources and the increasing prices, in future, it will not the question whether we have so much money to spend. We will be happy if we have a good consumption, but we will not have much more money in 20 or 30 years. So it's a very very seldom situation. For the societies like Germany or United States or other European states, but it will not be the future
so
in
I
20
want to
years.
test this. Is a very interesting hypothesis. So you would say in 20 to 30 years we're having less wealth than today.
Yes, in the rich countries.
Yeah, I'm just going to check that.
Yeah.
Who believes this? That in 20 to 30 years the wealth in Germany and maybe the United States has gone down in a kind of drastic manner? Red, who doesn't really believe it? Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think most of the people here agree there might be a major change in the wealth we have here. So maybe you're right. But I see, Professor Succow, you've got your microphone in hand.
Good. Also for me, it is sure that we have a collapsing of our society in the next 20, 30 years, financial collapsing and so on. And what we need is to prepare the post-collapse society. And we have in Germany wonderful groups which prepare this future model. And that is a way to have a community, commons. That is very important for me. Not owner, not private. Or a group is an owner of land. A group is make all the things together, and we have good models. Not only in developing countries, for example, in Ethiopia, we have commons area. And an intact it's an intact society. It is an intact economy. And in the moment we destroy such intact systems by developing help and especially by the land grabbing activities of many countries. And I think we need, we must prepare the post-collapse society, and it is possible to have more happy, more solidarity, more richness, more biodiversity, and all together in such models of common land with intact infrastructure and regional economy. Yeah, gut, aber es fehlt.
All right.
I have a short
I knew
answer.
you wanted to say something.
Yeah. If you start an organic farm, after that you have no time or money to consume.
All right. So it's hard work.
Yeah.
But I had one additional point to that. Were you thinking of creating something like safe in a post-collapse vision when you went out of Helsinki to start the farm? Was that also part of your idea, that the whole system might be unstable?
Well, why I came to the countryside is that I wanted to have a big house. And they are cheap enough in the countryside. In Helsinki, they are very expensive.
I know, yeah. All right, that was very honest of you to answer. Next question.
Okay, so here's the next question. What wishful scenario do you envision for the relation between human and nature? And what has to be done to transform it into reality?
I kind of didn't get it.
Okay, so what wishful scenario do you envision for the future relation between humans and nature?
Ah.
And what has to be done to achieve this?
Well, it's kind of too big to answer. I think this is just too... Yeah, I mean, this is like really like... What is the first step? That's maybe... That's very good. We could put this as the definite final and last question. What is the first step to achieve this maximum change? So, your answer, to have a garden. What's your answer? An ecological garden. Your answer, Professor Dr. Grießhammer.
To have no own car.
To have no own car. And your answer, Tapio?
This organic farm with some animals.
Organic farm with some animals.
Yeah.
Okay, now we got 3 solutions. How you do it? They're all pretty green and pretty rural. I'm very sorry to say, but this is the solutions you'll have to go home with tonight. Because it's 9 o'clock and we're at the end of this evening. So, first, I want to thank you very much for being here, sharing your thoughts, your inspiration. And of course, I want to thank you. You've been a wonderful audience. You've been very attentive. You had good questions, and you were really showing what you mean. And I saw a lot of honesty in your answers, and you helped us to have an inspiring discussion here on the podium. And I have some more thanks to say, although not so many, is mainly to the cooperation partners who made this evening happening. So it's the Center for Development Research of the University of Bonn, the City of Bonn, and of course, the Youth Future Project Association. So thank you very much for making this evening happening.